Hello, just doing another on-the-fly kind of lesson with regards to the major scale. Now, looked at things like chords, C, A, G, E, D, how to move them up and down the neck, and hopefully you've still got that fantastic layout of a piano. Really useful, especially with the way that the notes are laid out. Now, today, wanted to kind of go on about how to make a major scale. Most people hear it, that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, etc, etc. We've all heard that. Well, that's a major scale, and that makes a multitude of wonderful things happen in music, and it's a very underestimated thing. Everybody as a youngster gets really bored with the whole practice your scales, and it can be a bit rubbish, bit monotonous, bit boring, but let's try and lift the lid a little bit over maybe a few videos, or maybe a few hours, years, decades, as it's taken me. Never mind. Anyway, getting on to it. Now, obviously we know there are 12 notes. If you just want to go down to the basic 6 sharp, 6 flats, then basically F sharp and G flat are the same, or is it G sharp? G flat and F sharp. Okay, they have 6 flats for G flat, 6 sharps for F sharp. If you go for the 7 flats, well, you end up in the key of C flat. No point, because the key of B has 5 sharps. I know which one I'd prefer to read in, and vice versa when it comes to C flat. Sorry, C sharp. Yeah. Must make sure I don't make mistakes. When it comes to C sharp, everything's sharpened. 7 sharps. Well, why not just call it D flat? There's 5 flats that side. So it's a lot easier to understand, to read, and you don't have to think, oh, that's 7 bloody notes. I've got to alter 7 notes. Okay. Right. So the first thing to do is, now that we have our layout of a piano, we kind of have to understand how to make a major scale. Now, you'll probably hear something like tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Okay, well, what's a tone? A tone is a distance of 2 notes. So, here I am. This is Brad, by the way. Lovely guitar. Okay, open thin string, E. If I go up 1 fret to the 1st fret, well, that's a semitone, because a tone is actually 2 frets. So, open note, go up a tone, go up 2 frets. Go up a tone and a half from the... and that's up 3 frets, isn't it? Because obviously 2 divided by 2 is 1, so then add the 2. Tone and a half, hopefully you understand, 3 frets. Those of you who are terrible at maths, I think the TV's that way. Go to it. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So, we heard this idea of tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Don't know why I do it in that rhythm, but never mind. So we start with an open string. Doesn't matter which one. Sod we'll do it on all of them, just to prove that this works. Firstly, on the thin string, that's an E. Nice and simple. Go up a tone, we get the 2nd fret. Go up a tone, we get that 4th fret. Up a semitone, we're at the 5th fret. Up a tone, 7th fret. That's another tone, up to the 9th. Up another tone to the 11th. There we are, at the 11th. Then semitone to that 12th fret, where we do it all again. Okay, so tone, 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 sorry, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Nice and easy to understand. It works on all strings. Okay, so that was the E major scale, B major scale, G major scale, D major scale, A major scale, and then last but not least, the same as the thin string, Okay, so that's the two E major scales that we can get with the two E strings. Right. Bear in mind, I am doing this on the fly, by the way. I haven't rehearsed any of this. That's probably why it goes a bit to shit. Okay, so we've got our piano. We can use this formula to basically make any major scale. Okay, so if we were to start on C, C is there. Okay, brilliant. So we've got C. There's C sharp in the middle, for those who wanted the tongue. Yes. And then there's D. That's C, C sharp, D. Okay, that's up a tone. So there's your start, you go up a tone, you got to D. Once again, we're now on D. E, with the dark note in between. Okay, so that's another tone. You got E. Then there's F right next to it, no dark note in between. Okay, F to G, there's a dark note in between. Then G to A, there's another dark note in between, so that's another two tones that we've gone through. Brilliant, fantastic. So that's F to G, G to A, dark note in between, yeah. We've got B, then we've got B and C, which are right next to each other. Once again, remembering that the only place where we don't have accidentals is actually between B and C and E and F. Okay, so that's easy to make a C major scale. And you might look at the piano and just go, that's just all the white notes. That's true. Fantastic. Well done. Give yourself a smiley face. That's basically what we're after, is a scale without any sharps or flats, and that's what the C major scale is, and that's why it's that way. Let's just keep it that way. I don't know whether historically that is actually the true case, but for the moment we like this theory. Yes, no sharps, no flats, which is why we also try to learn the C major scale on so many instruments, because basically as soon as you start going into the sharp keys like G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, and then you've got all the flat keys, say for example F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, off to G flat. They add either a sharp each time or a flat each time, depending on which way you want to go. Okay, so we know that the C major scale has the notes C, upper tone is D, upper tone is E, upper semitone is F, upper tone is G, upper tone is A, up another tone is B, upper semitone, and we're at C again. We're back where we started, just higher in pitch, an octave up. Okay, so this is good. I mean, you could always say, well, that's actually 8 notes up, which is, yeah, we use that as a reason for calling it an octave. I think there are other reasons why it's called an octave, but I don't want to go down that road and be proven wrong, or digress too much. Anyway, so now that we know what notes are actually in the C major scale, you could start on a note like C and figure out where they all are. Well, on the B string, which is the second thin string, you know, start on the thin string, that's string number 1, second string, B. Well, at the first fret we have a C. Go up 2 frets, got D, up 2 frets, we've got E, up another fret, it's F, go up 2 frets, is G, go up 2 frets, A, up 2 frets, brilliant, B, up another fret, there we go, got a tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, and suddenly we end up with the C major scale. Brilliant. Okay, but it doesn't mean that you have to start on C, just in case. You know, any time that you play notes that aren't sharp or flat, you're essentially playing a note from the C major scale if you wanted it to, depending on which group of notes you are playing or what harmony you're playing over. It all makes it sound very complicated, but it isn't. On one string, if you decided thin string, E, well, I know that a fret up is F, 2 frets up is G, 2 frets up is A, 2 frets up is B, fret up is C, and then from there you can go, well, major scale. All the way up to there, and at the 22nd fret, is that D. Okay, but they were all notes that belong to the C major scale. So if you have a backing track that is in the key of C, maybe using the chords C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, any bunch of those flung together, but the easiest way to do it is just basically start with something like C and F. Just get two chords, C, F, C, F. If you want to be a bit more complicated and a little bit more risky and adventurous, try the most popular chord sequence that pop music uses. That's actually C, G, A minor and F. That's always a good one. Okay, that lovely 1 5 6 1 5 6 4. Fantastic progression. If you want something like a doo-wop, well, 1 6 4 5, which is C, A minor, F and G. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to it. Now, what this basically means is that any string you can basically play the C major scale on. You don't necessarily start on C, but you're playing the notes that belong to the key of C, or the C major scale. So, in my head, what it brings to mind, or to the fore, is one string solo. Yes, you can play a one string solo. I mean, you're... There's nothing wrong with it. Suddenly ended up in glory. Anyway, moving swiftly. It's not quite Christmas yet, unless of course it is Christmas. Happy Christmas. Okay, but you could see straight away I'm there just playing, you know, everything in the key of C. Anyway, God bless America. So you can see, you can come up with a whole load of different ideas of songs and everything like that that you can do on one string. I mean, it doesn't just have to be that one string. I mean, start on the second string. Anyway, move. No, God, stop that. Getting silly. But once again, that string, I'm just playing all the notes: B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You know, it's not that hard. Just moving over slightly so you can see me. And then you go to the G string. Well, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. You know, fantastic. You've got a whole load more, and you can keep going through the other strings. Okay, so what use is this? Well, if you're playing in the key of C, or playing in the key of A minor, or one of the modal variants that come as part of the C major family. So, for example, D Dorian, E Phrygian, F Lydian, G Mixolydian, A Aeolian, which is also the minor, B Locrian. B Locrian tends to normally get used in its own right over a certain chord, normally as part of a progression, so we won't worry about that. But any of those families or particular keys, we can use these notes because they all belong to the key of C. You know, so the main one that most inexperienced people will know of is the key of C major, the key of A minor. Now, just in case you don't know how to deal with the keys, we're in the key of C. Normally it starts with a C. C feels like home. Then it might go to an F, to a G, and it wants to go back to C. Yeah, you're right. But the same thing could be said if we're in the key of A minor. Maybe to an F, to a G. Now you might say C, yes, it could work. Back to the C or back to A minor. Depends on where it feels home, or feels like home is. So, Normally the key of C, it always wants to return back to C. Key of A minor, it always wants to return back to A minor. So using those chords that are part of the C major family, C, D minor, E minor, F, G and A minor. Okay, so you could mix and match any of them. Okay, so that's understanding a little bit about the C major scale. Now, the reason it's really important to learn about the C major scale is basically because we then start getting a bit more complicated with regards, we start using these things called sharps and things called flats. Hopefully you remember sharp pin up your bum, you quickly leap up. The last thing you want to do is boogie around in your chair on that. Bit painful. And then you got flats. Well, get your tyre slashed, it goes down, you know, or have a puncture or something like that, you know, it's going to go down. You know, some people could make some reference to ladies and chests. I don't want to go that way. Oh dear, I already have, sorry. But etc, etc, you've got to add a bit of humour in there. My apologies to any ladies out there. You know, I'm not really that much of a demon, or am I? Okay, so we now go over to a G. Okay, G is the first of the sharp families. Okay, so it has sharps, you know, and it has one in fact, which is F sharp. So if we were to just start on a G string, I've just remembered there's got to be some jokes there. Okay, so G string there, go up a tone is A, go up a tone is B, semitone is C, up a tone is D, up a tone is E, up a tone is not F, F sharp, and then semitone to G. Okay, brilliant. So we've got a G major scale. We now know what notes are in the G major scale. We know it's got an F sharp. Okay, now if you go out and hunt something down called the circle of fifths, it normally has the fourths as well, but the circle of fifths is brilliant. The more complicated it looks, the better. You know, and you might think that's bonkers, I don't understand anything about it. No, the more complicated ones have like a small stave layout as you're going around it, and it basically starts showing all the flats, all the sharps that are associated with each key, which is fantastic because you could do the really lazy version, which is basically just, you know, whatever sharps it tells me are in that particular key. Well, they're the ones I play. You know, if I'm in the key of, I don't know, G, well, obviously it's got an F sharp, we've just done it. So now, if we want to play in the key of G, all we do is play all those notes, but every time it comes to an F, we just raise it. So it's an F sharp. Okay, now the same thing to be done with flats. I mean, F, the key of F. I'll start on the thin string. First fret is an F. Upper tone is G, upper tone is A, upper semitone is B flat, not B, because A to B is there. We've got B flat there. Upper tone is C, upper tone is D, upper tone is E, and then we've got a semitone to F. If need be, once again, hunt down a picture of a layout of a piano. It's brilliant. You know, all you need is for most things, the circle of fourths or fifths and a piano layout, and you can pretty much do a lot of rock and roll with regards music theory and understanding a lot about music and the way it works just with that alone. It's crackers. It's great. I love it. Dare I say, it gets me excited. Yes. Okay, so that's the key of F. It's got a flat, and as you start getting progressively worse, I mean, you know, B flat has, you know, the B flat, but also an E flat. If you then start going to E flat, well, that's got E flat, B flat, and A flat in it. I should do it in order: B flat, E flat, A flat. Yeah, there's a set order to all of these things. If you go once again to the key of D flat, well, we've now got actually A flat. I missed out that one. A flat. Well, you start off with B flat, E flat, A flat, and then D flat. The next key would be D flat. So it gets a bit complicated, but it's just the way that the scales are arranged. And it might be worthwhile just getting down a pen and paper and actually writing down all the notes that are actually in the scales. And just in case you don't know what a flat sign is, it's like a little B next to a letter. So A flat would be basically like a capital A with a little B next to it. Ickle B. Ickle, yes. So that's how you write that. Sharps is normally just a hash. Is the normal way that most people just try and understand it. It is slightly slanted and done in a slight italic, and the flat is done in a slight italic as well as bold. But just so you know. Okay, so that's our understanding the scales and how to make them. And once again, do one string solos using all of those different keys or scales, and you can really have some fun with it. I mean, you can pick a random key. Let's go to E flat. Playing notes all from the key of E flat, mainly on one string, because I said one string solo. I'm sorry for the E flat on the 4th fret on the 2nd string, but you're kind of getting the idea, you know. So that's a little insight into how to make a major scale. Now, the other thing about major scales, how to basically harmonise them. Harmonising a major scale can be a bit of a cow if you don't understand it. So we're going to go back to our nice and simple one, C major scale. No sharps, no flats. So we don't have any superfluous nonsense to basically try and navigate our way through. I mean, it's like being, you go into different keys and it's like sirens pulling you out or onto the rocks. I mean, let's just deal with no sharps, no flats. So we have C major scale, just so you know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to number them. I dare say once again, maths. There's a bit of maths coming in here. So C is 1, also known as the root. D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7. Okay, so we understand that. Brilliant. So just in case, pause it, just make sure you have that in your head. It takes a while, yeah, every time I learn something new, something else flies out this side. It's horrible. Okay, so we've got a C major scale. We're going to want to understand how to make a C major chord, or make a chord. It's simple. Use, skip, use, skip, use. A bit like checkers, or drafts. Okay, where when you're taking them, the space has to, yeah, it's a bit like that. So we're going to use C, we're going to skip D, we're going to use E, we're going to skip F, yeah, next one's G, that's use. So we've got C, E and G. Okay, so you can understand that. Here's a C at the 5th fret on the 3rd string. Here's an E on the 5th fret, the 2nd string. And here's a G, which is at the 3rd fret on the thin string. I play the 3 together and it sounds like a major chord. It's lovely. Remember, major is happy, minor is sad. Okay. Beautiful. So that's a C. If we move it up, go to D. D is there, because we're dealing no sharps, no flats. Oh, hold on. The next note, if we were to just move that same thing up, because everything's linear on a guitar, well, okay, we've got an F sharp, so this next chord can't be that, because we need an F, so we flatten it, and then we've got an A. Because what we've done now is we've basically gone C, skip D, E, skip F to G. Then we go to the next chord, which is D. Okay, so we've got D here, skip E, go to F. So we want that one. D, F, skip G, then we have A. We kind of get this lovely sounding chord. Now this one's called a D minor. Now you might want to try and figure out what a minor chord is for the moment. No, stop. I'll stop you there. We'll explain it later on how we basically make triads and deal with triads. Not the Chinese type. No, triads. Basically chords that have 3 notes. Okay, so we've got C, D minor. Now the next one would be E. C, D, E. Remembering everything's the other way around on the camera. Okay, so we've got E. So we skip F, keep G. Skip A, keep B. So E, G, B. Okay, and that's an E minor. Okay, so let's go to F. Okay, F. Skip G, keep A. Skip B, keep C. Kind of comes out as F-A-C. Yeah? So there's an F, A, and then a C. So there we go. F. Fantastic. And it's an F major, so you know. So this is a major chord, that's a minor chord. Just so you can hear, there is definite difference between them. Yes, there is. Okay, you move up 2 frets, and the next one we're on is G. So we've got G here, skip A to B, skip C, next one D. So we've got G, B, D. Okay, like some angelic chorus. Yeah, my singing is brilliant. I want to be just like you when I'm older. Okay, so we go to A. Now A minor, which is the next chord, I always remembered because it was Ace, A-C-E, and that's how I remembered it. For some strange reason, when it came to F, it was always FAC, which kind of got me in a bit of trouble. I don't know why. I still don't. I'm such an innocent person. Okay, so we've got A, C, E. Now how does that work? Well, A is over here, B, C, D, E. Yep, you're right. Skip B and D. Get rid of them. A, C and E is what we're left with. So we've got Ace. Yep. And that's an A minor chord. Now, the last chord that you will find harmonised within the C major scale as up to the level of a triad is B, D and F. You might say, well, this sounds a bit horrible, a bit tense. Well, it's called a diminished chord, or a diminished triad. Diminished seventh, just in case people getting a bit ahead of themselves, is a slightly different chord. It's actually made fully up of minor thirds. We'll get to that sort of understanding intervals in a while. But for the moment, it's just a diminished triad. Okay? Yes. Chinese man who hasn't been fed in a while. Yes. Okay. Sorry, terrible jokes. So, that hopefully kind of outlays the chords a little bit. So we've got C, then we've got D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. Now, for those of you that have been very, very good at remembering that I've said a lot of things on the guitar are linear, and the same with music theory. They can just be transposed, moved up, pushed up into a different key, or pushed down into a different key. Okay, so if I wanted to go to the key of G, now we know G has an F sharp. Well, if you remember the system of how the chords came, there was C major, and then 2 minors, D minor, E minor. Then we had 2 majors, F major, G major, a minor, A minor, yeah, and then B diminished. So that's major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. We could use this in the key of G. Okay, yeah, we can. You've got the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then back to G. Well, if you remember correctly, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So that must mean that if we're clever enough, G major, yeah, G, B, D. Yeah, we do the use, skip, use method, and we get G. Okay, easy to understand. This is music theory that's coming to us at a really fast rocketing level, I know, but it's actually really, really easy to understand. Just pause bits, go over it again, start doing the maths, or writing things down. Write this jazz down. You know, try and get your head around it. Do it in different keys. You'll understand. It all makes sense. G major, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, and then to an F sharp diminished. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. You don't need to understand the notes that are in the chords, but at least you know that if you're in the key of G, there's a bunch of chords I could play. You know, so you might have a chord sequence like G, A minor, C, back to G. I don't know. I mean, that's something like "Don't Worry, Be Happy." Nice simple chord sequence. I'm getting buzzed by people, my apologies. Anyway, I'll quickly stick it on silent. Yes, my normal lessons aren't like this, honest. Right, so G, A minor, C, and then back to G. So, now if you want to, you could do one string solos over all of that. And that's cool. We could do this. This is fine. Okay, so you can have fun. You could do it to the next key, which should be something like D. Now this has F sharp and C sharp in it, so it's D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Okay, so that's D major, E minor, F sharp minor, G major, A major, B minor, and then C sharp diminished as triad. Okay. So, hopefully that's given you a little bit of enlightenment into the idea of how to kind of make a major scale and how to get some chords from it. You know, if need be, just pause it and go back over the sections, get out a pen and paper. It's really simple stuff. It doesn't take too much time at all. All you have to do is just get off your ass and do it. Okay, so the next thing I want to go on about is, well, you keep going on about majors, minors. How do we make a major chord? What makes a major chord a major chord? You know, and I keep seeing these things like minor chords, you know, diminished chords, augmented chords, suspended seconds, suspended fourths. I mean, it all starts getting a little bit hairy, a bit like my chin. Yeah, a little bit gross. A little bit horrible. You love it, you does. Anyway, how do you make a C major chord? Well, basically, it's take a major scale and take the first, third, and fifth notes from it. In the C major scale, be C, E, and G. That's a C major chord. You know, play them together. Okay, so how do I make a minor chord? Well, you know that lovely little third, that little note in between 1 and 5? Yeah, that one. We're going to flatten it. Yeah, we're going to kind of let it down a bit. So instead of being an E, we're going to flatten it down to an E flat, which if you've got your piano, you can see straight away what I'm talking about. So you end up with C, E flat, and then G. So instead of being, we're actually doing the 2001 thing, you know, A Space Odyssey. Do it the other way around, which is also the second part of that. Then the minor to major. And then we get a C to F. Anyway, moving swiftly on, but that's the rough idea on how to make a major chord, 1, 3, 5. How to make a minor, 1, flat 3 and 5. Okay, brilliant. So we got that nailed. Okay, so what's this thing you call augmented? Well, once again we take numbers 1, 3 and 5. And what we do is sharpen the 5th. Yep. Yeah. There's the major chord. and then an augmented. It's a bit eerie, you know. Kind of has this sort of weird, almost Star Trek sort of quality. You kind of listen to Star Trek, the motion picture, some of the soundtrack. That sort of. That sort of a thing. It kind of gives you this weird spacey sound, but it's lovely. I mean, obviously she's out of my league. Blah 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 blah. What a fantastic band. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da. Anyway, moving swiftly on. You can use it in a variety of different ways, but there's that general sound. Up to an augmented. Beautiful. And then I played F, followed by a lovely F minor. Ah, sad. But you get the idea. Okay, so I said something about a diminished chord. Okay, well, a diminished chord is basically a minor chord, but with a flattened fifth. Okay, so instead of having 1, 3 and 5, we've got 1 flat 3 and 5. And then we flatten the fifth. Sounds a little bit demonic. As soon as you start getting into things like your wonderful, yeah, diminished sevenths, you kind of get this lovely sort of, let's do a diminished seventh. I would just get that A in the bottom. It's a diminished seventh. Also sounds a bit like this. You know. But that's mainly where its heart is. That sound, it's quite tense. So the next one that we've got is, I said suspended second. What is it? Well, it's basically where we've got a triad, but instead of using a third, we either use a second or a fourth. If we use a second, it's a suspended second. If we use a fourth, it's a suspended fourth. So C, D and G instead of C, E and G. There's C, E, G, U, C, D, G. It's quite nice, it's quite pretty. I love it because it has this kind of neutered quality about it. Whenever it comes to chords, I tend to give them a gender or a sex. You know, major I always kind of view as masculine. Feminine is minor, you know, and then you've got neuter chords. Mainly because that third kind of gives it that sound of whether it is major or minor, you know, one or the other. And this is basically, some people could reference it to being a he-she chord. No, this is just complete eunuch. You know, C, D and G, fantastic. So what if we replace that D and went back to an E? That's fine, we're back to a C major chord. How about we did that C, F and G with the 1, 4 and 5? Okay, you can mix and match with these. It's almost like a super gonna blind me, but I won't feel. You know, ABBA, you start going into that sort of territory, or you can do some great little things just by using these little neutered notes, these other notes, these neutered passing chords. You know, that sus2 to major, add the sus4 to back to major, or sus2 to sus4 to major. Ugh. Okay, so you kind of get the idea on some of these chords. These are just the basic chords. Basic triads. Okay, so you might want to stick a watch later thing on your YouTube video now, because it's about to get world of shit. I'm not gonna lie, yes, I put a naughty word in there. I don't like swearing, but unfortunately this is kind of where it's about to go to, because we start going into the next variants, the further chords. It's almost like reaching those outer planets. You slowly start creeping out and realizing that, you know, this world of chords is a little bit more exotic and there's a bit more to it. And here we're actually going to the what is known as a seventh. Okay, get out the pen and paper. Right, major 7 basically requires 1, 3, 5 and 7. C, E, G and B. Note that I'm doing everything in the key of C just to make life easy, otherwise it starts getting complicated. And remember, this stuff you can move into other keys. C major 7, C, E, G and then a B. Okay, so that's a C major 7. The next one we're going to have is something called a C dominant 7. Okay, it's also known as a C7. As opposed to major 7, it's known as a C7. Okay, you've got to know the difference. You've got to remember that difference. And this one is basically 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Okay, so we've got that flat 7 in there. How does this help? Well, there's that flat 7. Now, to kind of hear it in its, you know, where it would probably sit, you know, maybe doing something like F, B flat, C7, back to an F. Could be used in all sorts of different things, like just on a nice little blues groove. Yeah, that sort of a thing. I mean, that's just purely 7th chords. Okay. As soon as you start getting a bit better at kind of understanding where all these things are, you can have a lot more fun with them. You know? I love it. Got some whiskey in my water. Yeah, blah blah blah. That song. Okay. Okay, so we've got the dominant 7th chord or 7th chord. The next one we're going to go to is actually the minor 7. Okay, now the minor 7 is basically 1, 3, 5 and 7, but what we're going to do is we're going to flatten the 3rd because we need to make it a minor chord, and then we're going to flatten the 7th. So I've got C, E flat, G, B flat. You can play any combination of those. It doesn't matter where they are all over the neck. As long as you play them together all at the same time, it will sound like a C minor 7. Okay? Nice and simple. Gorgeous chord. Get that lovely sound of a C minor 7 chord, and straight away it's a bit like a jazz chord, really. A jazz chord, no, not that chord, but C minor 7 sounds kind of jazzy. We like this. I mean, I normally refer to the major 7 as the chord of love. Oh, I love you. Yes, Devon custard. You know, you get to a 7th chord and it's that sort of welcome this morning. You know, that sort of an idea, and then you kind of get to the minor 7th, and straight away it's just hey, nice, smooth. Right? Minor 7, great chord. Okay, so the next one we're going to go to is a slight variant of this one. Instead of having the flat 7, that's why I've left it just after this one. We've got that flat 7 on a minor 7 chord. What we're going to do is we're going to put that 7 back to normal. Okay, because I wanted you to understand a minor 7 chord before I basically started going on about a minor major 7. Okay. Well, this is basically C, which is 1, E flat, flat 3, G, which is a 5, and then a B, which is a 7. So 1, flat 3, 5, and 7. Beautiful chord. You know? You know, you might remember it from TFI Friday, yes, with Chris Evans. That second chord. When you also hear it in like Stevie Wonder songs quite a lot. You know, that lovely move that he does in Lately. In my mind, you know, as well as I just called to say I love you, basically, because I've just played it. Got that I love you, I just called, that's it, to say I love you. Okay, do remember I am doing this on the fly, so if you're there about to say you're crap, no, I'm doing it on the fly. I've got cojones. Yeah, no rehearsal crap. I'm just sat in front of my computer. So anyway, so that's the idea of a minor major 7. Sounds more complicated than it actually is. Some people don't like the sound of it. It's not normally most people's bag first time, but it's still there as an option. Okay, so we're now going on to a little world of trouble known as the half-diminished chord. Minor 7 flat 5. It's a bit like a minor 7 chord, but it's got a flat chord, flat 5. Flat chord. Okay, so we've got C, E flat. Instead of a G, we've got a G flat, then a B flat. Okay, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Remember, if you don't understand this stuff, pause, go back, try and work it out, and you'll understand it. It's actually a lot easier than you realise. Chords aren't as hard as people make out. Okay, so we've got this idea of the half-diminished chord, as it's often called, or the minor 7 flat 5. I know which one I prefer to call it. Half-diminished. You know, 4 syllables as opposed to minor 7 flat 5. Oh good God, it just doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well. So we've got this chord. Okay, and you might say, not too keen on it. Nice. Okay, it has its uses. Remember, any chord that you think sucks, fool on you. Nearly every chord has a fantastic use. It's just the fact that you're too much of an idiot to know where. Okay, it's that simple. Even chords that you think are absolutely abhorrent, and you know, if it was a person, you'd basically ram a knife in their face. No, each chord can be used. Okay, as I say. If you don't know how to use it or hate it, well, it's because you're an idiot and don't know how to. Exactly. So it's your fault. Yeah. So is it the taxes. It's your fault. No, I'm not that nasty. Okay. Diminished 7th is the next one. Okay. So for a diminished 7th, how do we deal with this? Okay, it's 1, flat 3, flat 5. Here's the tough one. A diminished 7th. Okay. Oh, that's the name of the chord. Yes, exactly. But the 7th, what we do is we've got B. Well, if we flatten it 1, it becomes a B flat. Okay, if we flatten it one more, it becomes a diminished seventh interval from C, like the distance between C and A. So yeah, basically a double flat B is an A, but no, it's actually a diminished B. Okay, so you know, not a minor B, it's a diminished B. That lovely minor 7, diminished 7, that's the interval, yeah? Okay, fantastic. So this chord now has C, E flat, G flat, then an A. Okay. That's a stretch, but you love it. It's a gorgeous chord, and you heard me messing around with it earlier. You know, like one of those kids programs where, you know, somebody walks through a door, a bucket of complete mucus, falls on top of them. They're absolutely sodden in all this gunge, and you kind of just hear this. It's great. I love it. You know, it's also one of those things you often heard in like the old silent movies. You know, our hero, our lovely feminine princess. Yeah, she's gorgeous, and our hero, he's desperate to save her because she's tied to the train tracks. Will he get there in time? Because the evil villain's tied her to the train tracks, and the train's just coming. No, he won't, because unfortunately his shoelace has been tied together by the evil guy. You kind of get the idea. Diminished sevenths. They are really, really cool. Okay. And they also have their own uses, not just that particular one on how to come up with some really crap idea, you know, with regards to some kind of weird movie. Maybe I should direct or compose for film. I don't know. Maybe it's a future thing. But, okay, so hopefully on that little journey of trying to understand some basic things about chords. Now, remember, you can still faff about with them a little bit more. Those fifths, you know, like 1, 3, and then 5. We've played around with the seventh. We've had a bit of fun with different combinations with that. We've had a bit of fun with the third, and we've had some fun with that. Okay, you can move it, instead of having an E flat or an E, you can put in a D, and you know, opens up a new variety of options. And same with an F. You know, C, F, and then the fifth, which is G. Alter it if you want to. Move it to a G flat if you're going down the diminished seventh or half diminished route. You know, or sharpen it. Ooh, there's an option. Okay, so suddenly we've got this kind of C major 7. C major 7 augmented. How about C major 7 flat 5? It's an option, or it could also be seen as a C major 7 add sharp 11. But for the moment we'll just call it flat 5. Yeah, C major 7 flat 5. You love it. You know, you can do this with a variety of different chords. Now, if you are after information on chords, the best place to go is a book by Ted Green. Unfortunately, we lost him in 2005. Absolutely awesome guitarist. Basically, you know, what he didn't know about music theory and harmony, it really isn't worth knowing, and you really couldn't sell it to the poor. And stupid, really. To the poor and stupid, or really gullible people. No, you couldn't. He was just an absolute master. But he did a book called Chord Chemistry. Get it. If you really dig chords, get it. It's an absolute wonder. But for the moment, there's enough there to keep you going. Now, if you were to also do a lot of correlating with regards what notes are in the major scales and everything like that, like I did, because I'm a nerd, you'd start coming up with different ideas. So, for example, in the key of C, well, C, E, G, B, there's a C major 7th. But if you were to start on D and do the use, skip, use method, you'd end up with D, F, A, C. And if you were to do your research well enough, you'll realise that's a D minor 7. Go up to the next one, E, G, B, D. That's an E minor 7. Face is the next one, F, A, C, E, which is an F major 7. G7, as in that dominant 7, G, B, D, and F. Well, that's a dominant 7. You've got a G7 there. Go to the A, C, E, G, you've got an A minor 7. Go to the B, B, D, F, A, and suddenly we've got a B minor 7 flat 5. And that's all the chords in the key of C up to a 7th. Okay? Or harmonised to a 7th degree, or to the 7th. So many people have different terminologies or ways of explaining that, so I'll pass on that for the moment. That's my version of it anyway. I hope you've really enjoyed it. Let me know your feedback. Remember, I don't like haters, so if you're a hater, you know, go take it somewhere else, to some other dipshit. I really couldn't give a shit. You know, lovers or people who want to expand or share knowledge, go for it. Feel free. Share. It's what we should all do anyway. Anyway, peace. Safe journeys.